Hello, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome back to my channel. So today's video is going to be a topic actually for the gentlemen today, just because I have received a lot of questions about guys wondering or asking for some advice on how to make their experience at the strip club better. And I thought that was a very interesting question, just because, we know a lot of guys don't do a lot of self-reflection or accountability. So I actually am really happy that they are asking these questions, just because that a lot of the time they do create the fantasy or experience that they end up with. And yes, it's obviously a lot of our work on our end as dancers, but the guy sets the pace a lot of the time. If your energy takes a wrong turn, or you trigger something in somebody, or you are, well, I have actually a whole list of things that I want to bring up and talk about. It can change the whole vibe of the interaction with you and the dancer. So I'm gonna go through about 8 different things, and I did have to write them down just because I had kind of a lot to say about each one. So we're just gonna go right down through the list. So number 1, and this is probably one of the most important ones, is not listening to a dancer's directions. So if a dancer tells you not to do something, or to do something in a certain way, you should just follow what she says. I wouldn't argue, I wouldn't push back, and I wouldn't give her grief about it. A lot of times we're not being bossy, we're just protecting the vibe, rules, and herself. It's boundaries. Unless she's telling you to do something, crazy or illegal, a lot of times girls have to give you direction at the strip club, and it's in your best interest to just follow what she is kind of telling you to do. Of course, if this is a girl that you want to engage in an experience with at the strip club, then yes, of course, just, I would just say go with the flow. Like, don't fight it. You're there to have fun, right? You're there to, let somebody maybe kind of take the lead a little bit, or to show you a good time. Well, you have to let us do that. You kind of have to let go of the control a little bit and just give us permission, or trust us enough to let things happen and not force it. A lot of guys force things, when they ask stuff like, well, what's going to happen back there? Or what are we going to do? And all this stuff. And it's like, just like when it comes to relationships, like real relationships, like when you're pushy about things or trying to make things happen, that's normally when they don't happen. Like, let things unfold naturally and organically. And that's what I literally do have to tell people sometimes when it comes down to it about that. I don't want to necessarily, well, it is kind of an objection, but when I get that question, I always have to remind them, don't you want things to happen organically? Isn't it more of a turn on to let things just happen? If they're going to happen, they will. If they don't, then it wasn't meant to be. Okay, because remember, you're not going to the strip club to get some sex. All right? Like, I know that's what a lot of guys think or hope might happen, but if you go in there with the expectation of nothing's going to happen, because obviously that's illegal and you shouldn't be doing that, and that shouldn't be something that is offered at a strip club. But, unless you're looking for maybe like a certain kind of fantasy, maybe you're a fetish type of guy and you're looking for a girl to like beat you with a belt, or to tell you she hates you, or step on you or kick you in the balls or something like that. I don't know. Like, of course, then yeah, you might have to give a little bit of direction to tell somebody what you're looking for. But if you're just a regular guy that's just going into a strip club just for a regular experience, then my best advice is to just do what the girl says, and you'll be much better off. Okay, number 2, making the dancer ask you for a tip. Now, this is like my biggest pet peeve of like all time, when you're at the end of your service, or in my experience, ladies, I like to encourage you to ask for tips before the service. But again, we're doing this from a different perspective here, so I'm talking to the guys. But making a girl have to remind you or ask you for money is, in my opinion, really rude and also messes with the vibe. If she gets her money, like her tip money up front, oh, guarantee you're gonna have the experience that you're looking for, okay? If you give her, without asking, tip money up front, you're gonna be golden. She's going to like you more than 50% of the other clientele that she already deals with that does not do that. So that's going to put you ahead of, like I said, 50% of every other guy, and you're going to gain some trust with her. Yeah, that one is a big brownie points one for sure. And she's going to remember you too. Next time you come back, she'll remember you. Especially if you give her at least 20% of whatever service it is that you are paying for. It's just the little things like that girls notice. Like we do, like, yeah, that one is a really good tip. And then building on that one is number 3 is being stingy on principle. This one gets a lot of men in trouble. You know, if you're tight or guarded or constantly calculating every dollar, you know, that tension does show up in your interactions. Like, and I know men like think that they don't want to feel used or whatever, but all you do is end up creating a cold rush experience, and the girl is going to feel that. And you're just, again, it's a vibe killer. Okay. Even, let's just say you don't tip a full 20%. Let's just say you are there, you only have so much money to spend, but you still want to make a good impression. The fact that you at least give the money to her up front without her having to ask, though, is like still showing her a lot by just doing that. Okay. Yes, I'm not saying that you shouldn't tip 20%, gentlemen. Okay. That's not what I'm saying. But what I am saying is that if you do have a certain budget for this and you're just coming in there, you're doing your one thing and then you're leaving type of deal, is, like I said, as long as you know to tip her up front without her having to ask, that's a very good practice. Okay, number 4 is talking too much or trying to prove yourself. Okay, the club is not the place to over-explain who you are, your job, your morals, or why you're different from all the other guys. You know, the best experiences come from being present and not performing or explaining yourself, and this isn't an interview, okay? So that's another one. I feel like, yes, we don't mind listening to you guys talk. Obviously, I tell the ladies on here that, you know, we do want you to do most of the talking for various reasons, but you know, you don't have to go into a long, detailed discussion about it. You know, you can be very brief. Okay, number 5 is trying to control the interaction. So trying to set rules, negotiate everything, testing boundaries, or running the show is one of the fastest ways to create resistance. So testing boundaries is a big one. Like, I can't tell you how many guys have tried that. And I'm not sure why in 2026 we are still dealing with men that do this kind of crap. I know it might just be biological, but damn, is it annoying. Like, I don't know why we can't just respect people the first time around and not come around and try to test a second, third, fourth time. But when we are working in those type of environments, the last thing we want to do is deal with guys that pull these kinds of stunts. That's the fastest way also to kill interactions with any of the girls in there, because they're going to straight up ignore you and they're not going to remember you when you come back, as they should. Okay, number 6 is saying one thing and then doing another. So saying things like, I'll take care of you, or I'll tip you later, or I'll be back later, and then you don't follow through, that trust drops instantly. Once you tell a girl something like, oh yeah, not this time, but I got you next time, I don't encourage you doing that, but if for some reason it did have to happen and you don't come back, like let's say you are a regular type of guy and you don't follow through, yeah, she's gonna hold that against you. Your future interactions with her will change because of that. Because again, even though this is not a place for, like, you know, this isn't like a personal relationship, okay? But it does kind of act like one in some ways, because girls do like pay attention to this type of behavior. If you're a guy that goes in there regularly and you are doing all these things, these girls aren't going to want to talk to you. You're not going to have the best experience you possibly could. If you were a guy that does go in here regularly and follows a lot of these things, you will see a difference in the way that you are treated at the club. And then number 7 is taking boundaries personally. So rules, redirection, and pacing. None of that is personal, you guys. So men who internalize boundaries as rejection usually spiral internally, then project it outwards. And that's when the experience turns awkward or tense. Okay, so just remember that. And then number 8, this is a really, really big one, is being too judgy or critical or asking too many personal questions. So when we get guys that come into the club and start asking us a lot of personal questions, that gets really frustrating. And by personal questions, I mean things like, so why do you do this? What's your real name? What's your story? Where are you from? Like, I know those seem innocent and maybe you're just trying to, like, you know, build a connection or get to know this girl. But it's very frustrating because a lot of times we're not there to get to know you, especially on the first night that we meet you. The way we get to know you is by you spending money and spending money while we get to know you. Not before, but during. That's where a lot of guys mess up. I know you want to build a connection before you start spending money. I know some of you kind of like to get a feel for the girl that you want to, you know, get a lap dance from and all that. But honestly, you guys, I still feel like if you skip that step and you pick a girl, you start with what she looks like and you like the way she looks, just do not take up much of her time. 5 minutes is all you really need to get a gist of somebody, and then you need to start pulling out that wallet. Okay, again, because you're going to kill the vibe. The more you keep talking to her, the more you turn it into an interview or some kind of long, drawn-out conversation, the less you're going to put yourself more into the friend zone. So this is a phenomenon I like to teach the ladies that do watch my channel, is that this is why I tell them not to have these types of conversations with y'all in the club, because it puts you in a friend zone category. And by that, I mean, she's going to look at you in a really different light when you start connecting with her, especially if it's things like mundane things or things that you have in common, or you know, it does really change the vibe. It's going to be harder for her to be more, I don't know what the word is. I don't want to say sexual, but more, I guess, like, yeah, be more sexy with you. It's going to be harder the more you take that friendship route, if that makes sense. So again, you just want to keep everything very brief and just very, you know, like, save all those questions for later on in the night. Like I said, when you have her in a champagne room or you've had time to talk about other things or do other things, like, wait for those types of questions. Like, don't bring that stuff up until much later in the interaction with her. So the club is not a place to figure out somebody's life story. It's a place to enjoy the moment you're in, you guys. So basically, to recap, the club, like, the experiences at the club that are bad, they're just about energy. So when you listen, you follow directions, you tip without being asked, you stop evaluating and stay in the present moment, the entire experience changes. Okay? So this is probably going to be the last video, well, I guess first and last video that I'm going to do on this topic, because again, there's just, it's pretty simple. I really shouldn't have to say it a second time. And, you know, a lot of this, you know, we thought as women would just be common sense, but I guess not. So that's okay. We all can do some self-reflection and some learning here. But if you have any more further questions, feel free to leave it down below, and we will see you in the next video.